Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Word. How we doing? What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Full Blast. I am your host, Raja Burrows, and today we're talking about the chaos monkey that is feminine NI. So I'm really interested in sort of like in objective personality. There's sort of two sides of it, right? There is the function math side of things and the parts and that sort of thing, the logic-y block component of it. And then there's the hippy dippy component, the growth, the journey, the all of that stuff, right? Um, Both are really, really important, even for the science side of OP, when we're talking about how to actually type people and how are we defining our terms and how do we do all of that stuff. Understanding the hero's journey, the growth, the human needs, all of that stuff is really, really important to understand and fully embrace and value, etc. When you're trying to type somebody. But I think that with any system, anything, you got to sort of, spend some time here, spend some time there, go back and forth, right? And so now my I took a break sort of from really, understanding the parts, because I was like, I feel pretty good about the parts. Went over to the hippy dippy side of things, felt that out, vibed it out, sort of got a better handle on how that all works. And I'm like, okay, now that I'm sort of vibing that, let me go back to the parts and see if there are any new discoveries, right? And we found some new discoveries, y'all. We found some new discoveries. So one of the things that Dave mentioned in my original typing video is that with so when we're talking about control and chaos, right, it is on a spectrum. So if you have, these are all of your OI controlling functions over here, and here are all of your OE chaos novelty kinds of functions here, right? It is not like this, right? No, I guess because there's 8, right? Because whatever, right? So it does not go like this, where it's like masculine SI over here and then feminine NE over here, and there's like very discrete, like these are all very clearly organizing and these are all very clearly gathering. There is like a little bit of overlap. Like it very much is a gradient. And so, when you have, feminine NI is technically on this hand, but it's definitely like, you're like, this feels chaotic. This feels a little all over the place compared to masculine SE, which can kind of get very shovey controlling and like hammering you on the facts. And you're like, no, that rush was 1.7 yards, not 1.9 yards. That is not where he went down. The ball needs to be spotted here, not there. It's 4th and inches. No. It's not this many inches. It's this many inches. Like that's what masculine SE can get. You're like, what? Whoa, that's a lot of seemingly controlling behavior. And I was like, well, why does it, I was like, I don't love this idea of being like, how is masculine SE control-y in a savior state, right? We're not talking about like masculine SE and then the demon swing of NI controlling over. Like, I'm not talking about that. And I was like, okay, what's really going on? What are the patterns in my life that are showing up, that are doing things, whatever. And I started to think about it, and what really hit me is that there are a few people in my life who I talk to a lot who both have demon masculine NI. Allegedly, this is my typing of them based on the updated terms and whatever. Lots of masculine NI, and interestingly, quite a few people in my life that I get along with that are just sort of whatever, like that I find myself energetically in proximity with for whatever reason tend to have masculine ni somewhere. And I started to like now that I'm really been like, what is the difference between masculine ni and feminine ni, and why does it matter? Like, I don't care about the difference in just a like definition of term sense. Like, I want to see like in practice, in actuality, like what is going on, right? And it sort of hit me like a day or two ago. Because one thing that can happen, and one of the things that I've run into is like being a problem in my life, is that I don't really stick to things, which is weird. Because you're like, well, wait, hang on, you're lead OI. What the fuck do you mean you don't stick to things? And a lot of that is me being, no, a lot of that is me being double activated masculine SE, bottom of my function stack. That totally gives me personally a little bit more of that like chaotic punch. But even my lead feminine NI can feel like a little all over the place. And it can feel a little bit like, wait, but no. I thought that we had organized the thing this way. Like, I thought that these were the rules. And then my feminine NI brain is just like, oh yeah, well, the rules changed. Of course the rules changed. I don't, based on, because new data came in, new masculine SE data came into my IJ box that I was like, oh no, gotta respect this. Given this masculine SE data point, then obviously the rules have to change. But I didn't actually communicate this. And I don't always do the best job of communicating this. But that was something I noticed, is I was like, oh, right, I really do. And like, even if you look at my apartment, like, I rearrange furniture a lot. I didn't do it for years because my mom is one of the people who has masculine NI in the middle. So she is somebody, so I think she's some sort of double feminine ENFJ jumper. So I think she's a like lead play with FE and SE, because she is constantly scanning the environment for like, this is popular and this is popular and this person is more popular than that person. And then, you know, BMWs versus Audi versus Range Rover versus Bentley versus Jag. Like, she's just constantly aware of not so much the sports car. Like, she doesn't really give a shit about Lamborghinis, but like in the like, what can most consumers afford? I put that in obviously extraordinarily large air quotes, but like a Ferrari is not a consumer vehicle in the same way that like a Range Rover, like you see Range Rovers on the street with a higher frequency than you know, Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Bentleys and shit, right? But she's constantly scanning her environment, and she's very open to like, oh yeah, this is the hot new car right now. Oh, this is the hot new thing. And this, she's weirdly kind of Gary V-ish in that, like, again, she's double feminine and not nearly as aggressive about it, but she's absolutely just as receptive to trends and changes. And again, she doesn't give a shit about technology, but she's like, when it comes to fashion, when it comes to this or that, or, you know, cars or jewelry or celebrities. And, you know, I think part of why, like, I've always obviously loved acting and being in front of the camera and blasting and talking and whatever. But part of the reason that I feel comfortable with all of the bullshit side of, you know, the celebrity part of the industry that I work in is because that's just what I grew up around. Like, I saw growing up so clearly this like FESE, oh, who's on Letterman tonight? Like, you know, my dad, we watched David Letterman, less Jay Leno. He was a little bit too like old school talk show host for us. We were always a little bit too edgy and iconoclastic for that. You know, but like we love Seth Meyers. And again, it's very like, who's trendy, who's popular, who's cool, what's the latest happening, what's the goss, whatever. So I bring that up because her essay is super feminine and flowy and like, oh, I guess it's this thing and then it's that thing and then it's this thing and then it's that thing when it comes to gathering, right? But when she gets locked onto an idea, when it comes to something abstract for her, when it comes to a plan, she gets like very, very rigid about it. And when it comes to like procedures of like, this is how we do things, this is how things are done. There's a very, very narrow spectrum for her when it comes to her masculine NI. Whereas my feminine NI is like, all right, I guess we'll just, I don't know, we'll move some stuff around and we can reorganize things. And like, she'll do it, but she'll do it using her. She's like, oh, right. Yes, being flexible just means gathering new shit. Whereas my version of flexible is like, no. We don't need to gather anything new. We just need to take what we have and organize it differently and just put together a new plan with what we have. And then her brain kind of breaks. She's like, no, but if I've arranged the things that I have perfectly, if we're going to change the arrangement, then it means that we need to go gather. So we can't just rearrange because I've arranged what we have perfectly. This is how this goes. And I'm like, does it have to be? And so again, it got me thinking. Again, it's just like a number of the people in my life who I have some of the best conversations with across the board, they all tend to be in my quadrant, in the gamma quadrant, right? So TE, FI, SE, and NI. So we all have the same functions. But they're all either double feminine or more commonly FM, so masculine TE and masculine NI, which makes sense to balance out my feminine TE and my feminine NI, right? But again, like there are a number of people in my life that I've been talking to, and I'm like, oh shit, what we're kind of doing the NI thing the same way, but not really. For instance, so I think about someone like Frank James, right? So Frank James, YouTuber, great guy. I think he's black. I think he's a double feminine, blast, sleep, consume, INFJ. So he has the double activated masculine NI at the top, like Darren Brown. And they did a little class video about him. If you watch his videos, he is so precise about the plan. He's like, I write out a script. I do and again, it's very easy. It's very effortless. Whereas for me, now again, we're both lead blasters, right? So he should be able to, right? Again, according to the math, like, yeah, we should have similar facility with like just talking and being in the moment and like blasting and communicating. But like, when you look at the level of planning that he does, it's not. Here's the thing. Do you know why? So this is video number 113. I started making this series. I don't even remember how long ago it was. It was, let's see. No, don't play the videos. Oh my God, what is wrong with you? Videos. So I started this, let's see. So I did the first one 10 months ago. So this is right before the pandemic started. Yeah, like right before the pandemic started, I started making these videos. And I've done 113 of these videos. Now, part of that is like, oh, look, blast play, going blast play. But I think a bigger reason is that my feminine NI can't plan for too long. Like it's weird. I can't get too stuck in the planning stages because my narrowing down, it just stops narrowing at a pretty wide berth. So here's what I mean by that. I started this video at 11:15 Pacific time, right? I have something that I have to do. I have to go to work at noon. And so in my brain, I was like, oh yeah, these videos are about 45 minutes long. I can make sure to talk for 40 to 42 minutes. I'll have a nice length of video. I'll be done. Get a glass of water. I'll be ready to start my tutoring session that I have to do at noon. And so I have these like guideposts, right? So I think of them as cairns. As a side note, I just love the word cairn. There's something about it that's just like deeply, viscerally, emotionally satisfying to me. And I don't entirely know why, but I love the word cairn and I love the concept of a cairn. So what a cairn is it's just a rock pile. That's it. There's not really like a sign. There's no writing usually. Like a cairn is just like, here's a rock pile. And when you're hiking, you're supposed to just go from cairn to cairn. And you're like, okay, there's a cairn here. This is like a general guidepost rock pile. I see the other rock pile over there that I'm aiming for. How I get there is entirely up to me. Like, I don't have to do any, like, I don't have to really plan it out. I can go swooshy, I can go whatever, but it's like I have a starting point and I have an ending point, and then everything in the middle is like swooshy, wishy-washy, whatever the fuck, right? And that is that's why feminine NI can be so goddamn all over the place. And you see it in Dave's videos too, right? So I love bringing up Dave as an example because it's a cross check of like, yes, I'm an extra chaos monkey because of my double activated masculine SE at the bottom of my function stack, but Dave's a fucking chaos monkey too with his double activated lead feminine NI. But you can still mostly 95% of the time, you know where the boundaries are, right? It's just a very large sandbox, right? Or, if you're thinking about like swimming in lanes, right? Masculine NI is very much like this lane for this, like, here are the 8 lanes. These are the starting blocks. You stay in your lane. You go zoom as fast as possible to the other end of the pool and then come back, whatever, right? My feminine NI, it's the same pool, but it's more of like an open water thing where it's like, yes, there's only 8 people in here. Nobody's fucking playing water polo in the middle. Like, it is organized in the sense of we're all trying to get to the other side. We all generally have where we're supposed to be. But like, look, people drift. It's not going to be perfect. We're not going to be super rigid about it. We're just trying to get to the end and then come back, right? That is much more what my feminine NI is trying to do. The way that Dave put it, as I've said this before, he's like, it's like your NI, it's still a box. And that's what people, I think, a lot of the time forget about feminine NI, is that it is not NE. I am not constantly looking for as many options and possibilities as possible, right? I think of that scene in Airplane that is like the best example of NE that I can think of in like a very short period of time, and it's the scene where they're in the command tower, and the head guy is like, Johnson, what do you make of this? And he takes, they get the printout of the report, the facts or whatever, and then he hands it to his assistant. He says, "What can you make out of what is it?" I think he said, "What can you make out of this?" I think that's the line. Again, they get very precise about the dialogue. I don't know it off the top of my head. I think he said, "What can you make of this?" or "What can you make out of this?" And it's a big piece of paper. And so the guy's like, "Ooh, I can make a hat. I can make a hat. I can make a brooch. I can make a pterodactyl." And you're like, "Oh, right, that's NE." Metaphorically, where it's like, I have this one thing, but I have an unlimited number of possibilities with this one little thing, right? So that's the SENI, the SI axis is like, I have this one sensory thing, this one piece of paper that I can do 72 different things with. And I get really excited with how many different ways I can use this one little piece of paper, right? My NI, as chaotic as it is not constantly looking to expand the parameters. It wants things to stay very much in the box. If something is outside the box that needs to get included, right? I'll be like, fuck, okay. Either, all right, so here, this is my box. This is my box. I never travel without my box. So this is my box. SE data thing is over here. Well, then my feminine NI has a choice. I can either bring the SE thing into my box that already exists to fill some sort of void, to flesh out some idea, whatever, or my feminine NI can expand the walls of the box to include it, right? My goal is for everything to naturally fit into the box. That is not how life works. Whatever, my box has to expand over time, right? But when my box does have to expand, you are going to see way less of a tantrum from me because my NI is feminine. So the way that I was sort of piecing it together this morning, as I was like, well, what's really the difference? Masculine NI wants the best option. It wants the best plan. It wants the perfect plan. It wants the perfect algorithm. It wants the most narrowed down, efficient fucking point A to point B zoom as possible, right? It just wants to fucking go and get there. And like when masculine NI locks onto something, it is fucking locked on. And you cannot break that, right? Feminine NI is like that, but it has anywhere from 2 to 4 options at any given time. So it'll be like, all right, I don't want 17 options. Don't fucking throw shit at me constantly that I then have to try to incorporate or reject. Like, I'm good with my 2 to 4 options. I'm good with it. And then within that, like, we're still going straight. It may be a little bit slightly less efficient, maybe, but I don't have to worry so much about like, so like if you have this really narrow path, right? And you're like, this is the best plan in theory. You're like, sure. What happens when there's a rock in the middle of your one path? Then you have to be like, okay, well now, fuck, I have to go around this rock. The rock wasn't part of the plan. I guess I don't want to smash through it because I'm feminine sensory and I kind of want to just like swoosh and watery around it and like pretend it wasn't there. But it's still another thing you have to deal with, right? And look, if the rock is smaller than the birth of your NI, it's fine. Yes, you can absolutely squeeze around it, stay on track, stay on the plan. But if the rock is bigger, right? So like, let's say the rock is this big and your plan is this big. Now to go around the rock, it will feel like you have to change your plan. And some sort of INTJ, probably in the blast sleep. She's a little more blast sleepy than I am. Whereas I'm definitely blast, play, consume, sleep last. Like she's not sleep last at all. I think she's consume last. Anyway, regardless. We were talking about this because, we're putting together plans and because she was visiting me in New York for a while. And it was interesting because we were talking about like, yeah, no, listen, I love a good plan change. Like if we set plans, like let's say, all right, we're all going to meet here at 5:30 and then, finish, have a shot, have a drink, whatever, and then leave at 6 to get to the restaurant by 6:30 to make our reservations. Let's say that's the plan, right? Listen, if the plan has to change, right? If it's like, listen, the 1, 2, 3, it just fucking isn't running. It was running with delays, and now they shut it down. I don't think we're gonna get there until 6 or later. We're just gonna meet you at the restaurant. Have a shot for me without me. I won't be able to make it to the to the 5:30 thing, but I'll meet you guys for dinner. I don't want to be late for dinner. To feminine NI, we are 1,000% always super into that. We're like, well, I tell you what, the end goal was dinner anyway. Lining up like we have to do this, and then we're doing this, and then we're doing this. Like this is a multifaceted plan. No, this large masculine sensory data point of the fucking 1, 2, 3 train just isn't gonna like that is gonna fuck up our plans of meeting beforehand. You were gonna take a shower, we're gonna have a drink, like gossip, we're gonna like, whatever, and then we're gonna go out and have dinner together, right? We're like, you know what? This part of the plan, that's fine. Because we sort of mentally factor in there's a lot of unknowns, right? And I think that the feminine NI at its core, even without masculine SE at the, being double activated, whatever, I think that it is just sort of naturally more attuned to, listen, shit might derail our plans by just the living of life. Something might happen that just completely takes you, off course. Right? And that's something that feminine NI is weirdly accepting of. And I think it's because it comes down to this. So I was trying to think of like control versus chaos and shovey versus flexible and strong versus weak. I'm like, I don't like any of these words. These words are bleh. I don't like it. They have weird loaded cultural connotations. I don't find them particularly compelling or accurate or cross-referenceable. Like, we gotta have better words. So lately, what I've been really interested in when thinking about just masculine and feminine functions in general, I like the framing of, in the context of OP, maybe in other contexts, I would need to like actually see this through. But right now in OP land, I really like the idea of masculine functions being about precision and the feminine functions being less about precision, right? So if we're talking about the spectrum of like, if you are, so there's a great video on the YouTube channel I was just watching this morning, and it was I think it was like ISTJ Make It Clear video. And it was the guy who was the John Dingell, the congressperson. I think he was some congressional oversight committee, somebody, whatever. He was some representative grilling the Toyota guy about like, please give me the exact date that you first received word of unexpected acceleration. And the guy's like, I don't have that information. Please submit that information for the record. Next question. What is the exact date that you first issued the first recall for this particular thing? He's like, if I don't know the answer to the first question, I don't know the answer to the second question. Please submit the answer to the record. What is the this? What is the... And he was very much about getting the sensory, again, lead SI, double masculine SI, masculine TE blasting of like, be precise about the sensory. Be precise about the sensory. Give me the exact date. Give me the exact timeline of events. Give me the exact. Right? And I think about my dad. So my dad has masculine SE at the top of his function stack, I think. And the reason that I think that is that he definitely messy, gather to hell, whatever. But when it comes to doing woodworking projects, he's like, he is so ridiculously precise when it comes to measuring things, right? Now, part of that is just he's done this for a while. He knows measure twice, cut once. He gets it, but he's very much like, no. This is it's not one and it's not 1 1/2. It's 1 7/16. And he'll write on this thing like 1 7/16, and that's the this and level of precision. Whereas I'm sitting there like, can we just make it 1 1/2? Just because that makes for real easy numbers? Because then I, like, just the way that tape measures are made, finding the 1/2 inch mark is way fucking easier than finding the 7/16 mark. Like, no. Can we just make it 1 1/2 inches? Please. No. That I'm measuring this piece of wood is not 1 1/2 inches. It's 1 7/16 inches. We have to respect the 1 7/16 inches. And I'm like, oh my Jesus. Okay, great. And so again, that's the level of when we're talking again in OP. This masculine SE is responsible for being precise with the sensory. My mom doesn't give a fuck. She doesn't give a fuck about precision. She's close enough. Like, she's not going to do, 3 sticks of butter when it asks for 2. That's way too far. But if it's like, if she's like scooping out the flour, like, I'll be like, hang on, if we need a 1/2 cup of flour, let me scoop it out. Let me do it over the top and let me like actually get it. And she's like, no, it's fine. It's fine. It can be a little more, that's fine. It's fine. So she'll just like scoop it and sort of shake and be like, that's pretty close. That seems right. And she'll glop it in. And I'm like, but that was more, or you didn't fucking measure it precisely. Oh my God. But to her, the sensory is not where the precision matters. To her, because she has feminine SE and masculine NI, the precision comes in, again, because it's also attached to her blast. It's about like, how does it look at the end? What is the feel? Like, we're not, I'm trying to think, God, I'm trying to even think how to put it. She just gets very precise about the plan of what she is doing. If she's like, nope, today I am, here's what she gets precise. She's like, today I am making pies. Like, I am making pies. That is what is happening today. And she'll just stick to that plan. It doesn't matter what other sensory bullshit gets in her way. She's just sticking to that plan that she has made. Right? Whereas but when she's making the pies, that's where she gives herself a little bit of freedom. It's whatever. She can, it can be a little bit messy. She's also been doing it for 40 years. God, more than 40, probably since, 50 years, right? She's in her 60s. She's been making pies since she was a teenager because you took home ec back when she was growing up. It was like a thing. But she does get very, very rigid about like, no, I like, this is the plan. This is the list of people that I am giving pies to. We're not knocking anybody off the list because that's not the plan. I always make a pie for our doctor. I always make a pie for the office ladies, the receptionists and people. This is what we always do. This is the plan. This is we have to be very precise about who we give these pies to, right? And not changing it. So I realize that's like a little bit, maybe not the best analogy, but hopefully you can kind of see the ways in which, when we're talking about the masculine function, the feminine functions in general, I think that clarity and precision, that's what I'm really interested in exploring, right? Because it's not about necessarily like punching the things, although it can be, right? But it really is much more about like how narrow and how precise do you feel you have to be comfortable? And this is true for our saviors and our demons alike. It's just as much, and I think that that's really how we find our own internal balance, right? I know, listen, I talked about parts for 36 goddamn minutes. We're only a little hippy dippy at the end, right? So when we're talking about like internal balance, moving forward, setting goals, doing the thing, whatever, balancing our masculine and feminine forces, there's obviously a lot, in the ether, in the archetypes of masculine and feminine. Dig into it, whatever, come to your own conclusions. But in the context of OP, I think it's really, really important to understand where you are naturally flexible and where you are naturally more interested in precision, right? Where you're willing to sort of be inexact and where you're like, no. This is solid. This is what we have committed to, right? And I think that in order to actually move forward, like you're going to have to balance your masculine and feminine forces. You're going to have to balance all of your own internal shit just to like get through life. And so that's a really, really useful way to do it. So like, I know that for me, when it comes to plans, nailing down a plan too hard for too long is never going to work for me. It just isn't. Maybe that is how things will accidentally manifest. Like, for when it came to OP, I've been part of the personality community for years at this point. My FI is attached to it. I have enough of a sense of like, no. Like I can see, yes, I can now see further down the line as this, NI pathway is being built. But like, I didn't really expect Alexa dismiss. Forgot I set the alarm. My apologies. But I didn't really plan on like being this involved in the community. And that's just something that really did have to happen totally organically. And there were times when I would like be really into OP and then I'll back away from it for a while and I'll be really into the classes and then not on the classes and then just the YouTube video and then just the Facebook group and then just the After Dark group. Like I'm bouncing around. Like I'm not like shoot. In contrast, the class members group, right, that Austin runs, that shit is like so hyper focused. It's like the same, like every week. Here's a list of all of the, here's a thread for all the clips that you have found. Here, what type did you get? Here's the Google Doc to submit it. These are the results of the Google Doc. This is the percentage, and it's just the same thing all the time. And it's a great little community over there because it is very masculine NI. This is the plan. This is what we do. Forget the external sensory data. That can be, imprecise. But what matters is that we do the thing, we stick to the plan, right? Whereas my feminine NI is like, you don't have to stick to the plan. Let me be clear. We need to have a plan. And that's where I get freaked the fuck out, is if I'm around too much chaos, especially NE, where it's like, ugh, why do we have to have plans? Like, can't we just Calvin ball our way through life? And I'm like, no, we fucking cannot. Oh my God. Like, we need to have some kind of plan. But look, if we want to reevaluate the plan every month, every quarter, every whatever time interval, I'm super down with that. Because in those intervals, let's just say every month, right? A month is frequent. Every 3 months, right? Changing of the seasons, right? On the equinoxes and the solstices, we're like, all right, how's the plan going? How we doing? How we feeling? And then we can say, all right, what sensory data that's immutable, right? Because the sensory data is what the feminine NI needs to be precise about. What new sensory data has come in? And then how do we need to adjust our feminine NI plan to fit the data, right? Because the data is precise. The data is exact. The plan can be a little more flexible, right? And so all of this is to say, if you have feminine NI, I feel you, in some ways I feel your pain, because it can feel like you never have a plan and never really have a foothold on anything, and you're just like careening forward in life, and you're like, oh fuck, oh my God, I have nothing. It's all just this swoosh. I feel your pain, but there is a superpower component to that. And that is, there are lots of people, again, with underdeveloped masculine NI, too far in the masculine NI, what they haven't integrated all of their parts, whatever. But like, masculine NI can very, very much get like much too narrow-minded in a way that feminine NI, there's gonna be that natural fail-safe there. Like, you're gonna get that cross-check just organically, because your feminine NI is fine with imprecision. And that's a hard thing to communicate to people. You're like, I'm fine with this being imprecise. We just need a loose plan. But then whatever it turns into, right? That's, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, that can be enormously useful. So all of this is to say, my feminine NI peeps, I see you, I feel you. Just know that when it comes to planning, your natural comfort level is going to be a little bit more on the side of, I have a loose plan. It's whatever. It can change if it has to. And just know that that's going to be our default state. All right, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!